In this lesson, we're going to learn about dictionaries. A dictionary is a collection of key-value pairs. It is one of the core data structures in Python. We're going to start by creating a dictionary. So here we have creating dictionaries. So here I'm going to have scores. Then I'm going to be assigning it to a dictionary. To create a dictionary, first you provide a set of curly braces. Inside the curly braces, you provide key value pairs. So I can have something like Kate. Then after the Kate, I'll provide a colon. Then I'll provide a value. So this is what we'll call key value pairs. So this is the key and this is the value. And together, this key value pair is considered an item. So if I want to add more items, I'll provide a comma. Here I can have John. And for the value, I'm going to provide 30. So right now we have 2 items in this dictionary. If I want to add more items, I'll simply provide a comma. So can have Eve. Here we're going to have 25. Now I'm going to be creating another dictionary. This time around, I want to use a dictionary to store prices of products. So I can have something like products is equal to, I'll provide the curly braces. Here I can specify the product name and the price. I can have rice, colon, I can have 3,000. Here I will have milk. I can have 250 as the price. I'm going to have egg. And for this, we're going to write 100. So this is another example of a dictionary. Now, let's look at how to create an empty dictionary. So have creating empty dictionaries. To create an empty dictionary, you simply provide an empty curly braces. So here we can have scores is equal to, I'll simply provide an empty set of curly braces. So this is an empty dictionary. Now let me provide another example of a dictionary. So this time around, I can have students. And for this, I'm going to have my curly braces. Here I'm going to provide the student name. So I can have Kate. Then I'm going to provide the subject and I'm going to be making use of the list. So I can have a square bracket. Here I'll provide the subject. So I can have English, or can have maths, or can have physics. So this is the key, while this is the value. I can provide another item or another set of key value pairs. So here we can have John. And for the subject, I'm going to have a square bracket. Here I can have maths. I can have agriculture. I can have government. Now a dictionary can contain a dictionary. So you can have a nested dictionary, a dictionary containing other dictionaries. So can as well have something like biodata. And here I'm going to have Steve. Here I'm going to have another dictionary. And for this dictionary, I'm going to have key value pairs. So I can have something like age, 20. Then I'll put a comma. Here I'll have gender, then I'll have male. So I can bring this down to make it easier to read. Now, to provide another item in the dictionary, I'm going to have a comma here. Here I can have if. For the value, I'm going to have a dictionary. So here we're going to have age, and we can have 19. Then gender. We can have female. So this is a dictionary containing other dictionaries. Now let's look at how we can access items in a dictionary. So have accessing items in dictionaries. So if you look at this dictionary, we have key value pairs. If I want to access the value that is linked to this key, all I need to do is to provide the key. So I can have something like subject is equal to student. Here I'm going to provide a slicing operator. Inside the slicing operator, I'll provide the key. So I can have Kate. Then I'll print out the subject. Now, if I run this program, you can see the subject. Now, if I want to see the subject for John, I'll simply change this to John. Then if I run this program, I'm going to get the subject for John. If I provide a non-existing key, I'm going to run into an error. So let me have if and run the program. As you can see, we have a key error because we don't have any item with the key if. So if you are not sure of whether a given key is inside of a dictionary, in order not to run into an error, you can use .get. So here you can provide the key, so you can have if. Now let's run the program, and this time around we're getting a none instead of an error. So you can only use the slicing operator when you are sure that that particular key is in the dictionary. And remember that Python is case sensitive. If I write Kate in lower cases like this and run the program, we're going to run into a key error because we don't have this name. So what we have is a Kate starting with a capital K. So if I run this, we're going to get the subject. So now let's look at how we can add items to our dictionaries. So have adding items to the dictionary. To do this, first you are going to provide the dictionary. Then you provide a slicing operator, then provide the key. In this case, I can have if. So this is students. Then I'm going to assign it to the value. So in this case, I'm going to be providing subject. So I can have maths. I can have chemistry. I can have biology. Let me print out the students to confirm if we're able to add this item to the dictionary. So I'm going to have print students. Now, if I run this program, you can see that we're able to add if to the dictionary. So now we have if, and these are the subjects for if. So this is how you can add an item to a dictionary. If I provide an existing key in this place, and in this case, I provide Kate, what this is going to do is to update the values associated with this key. So this is not going to perform an addition, rather it is going to update. If I run the program, as you can see, the value has been updated. So if you provide an existing key, inside of a slicing operator and assign it to a new value. You are not performing addition. You are simply updating the value associated with that key. Now let's look at how we can remove items from a dictionary. So here we have removing items. Here we're going to be using the pop method, and we're also going to be using the pop item. And finally, we're going to be making use of the del keyword. So let me start with the pop method. So I'm going to move this dictionary down. So here we have it. So this is what we're going to do. First, I'm going to provide student is equal to. So here I can have student.pop. Inside this parentheses, I'm going to be providing the key for the item I want to remove. So I can have Kate. Now let me print out student. So here I have print student. And run the program. You can see that we have removed the Kate. Now if I print out student, so here we have print student, it is going to give me the value associated with the key for the item we just deleted. So if I run it, you can see that this is the value associated with Kate, which we just removed. Now we have the pop item method. The pop item method allows us to remove the last item in a dictionary. So instead of writing students.pop, I can have students.pop item. Now let me print out students. So here we have print students. If I run the program, you can see that what we have remaining in our dictionary is Kate. If I want to see what we just removed, I can have print student. Then if I run this program, you can see this is the item we just removed. So the pop item method allows us to remove the last item in a dictionary. Now let's look at the del keyword. So here I'm going to have del, then I'm going to be specifying the item I want to delete. So here I'm going to have student. Then I'll provide a slicing operator. Here I'm going to provide the key, so I can have Kate. Now let me print out the student. So here we have print student. If I run this program, you can see that we have successfully removed Kate. What we have remaining is John. So you can use the del method to remove any of the items in a dictionary. So if you want to remove the entire dictionary in the first place, you can simply provide the name of the dictionary. So if I run the program this time around, I'm going to get an error. And the reason is because this dictionary has been removed. So trying to print a non-existing dictionary is what gave us this error. So, and the reason for this is because we deleted this dictionary. Now, let's look at some of the important methods in dictionaries. So we have methods. So here we're going to be looking at keys method. We're going to be looking at values method, and we're going to be looking at items method. So let's start with the keys. And in this example, we're going to be making use of this dictionary. So I'll simply paste it here. Now, if I want to fetch all the keys in this dictionary, I'm going to be using .keys. So here I can have result is equal to scores.keys. Now let me print out the result. So have print result. If I run this program, it is going to give me the keys. So these are the keys. We'll have Kate, we'll have John, and we'll have Eve. If I want to get the values, I'm going to use dot values. If I run this program, it is going to display the values. So what we have here is 20, 30, and 25. And this is what we have here. So if you want to fetch the values, you use dot values. Now we have items method. So have dot items. If I run this program, it is going to give me a list containing tuples of the key value pairs. So if you look at this, we have a tuple of Kate and 20. So Kate is the key, 20 is the value. So if you want to fetch the items in form of a tuple, you use the items. Now let's look at how we can iterate or perform a loop on a dictionary. So here we have looping a dictionary. So we can use either the for loop or the while loop to perform iterations on dictionaries, but I'm going to be making use of the for loop. To loop through a dictionary, I can have something like for score in scores, print score. If I run this program, it is going to be displaying the keys. Now, if you want to display the values, instead of looping through the scores, you can have scores dot values. Of course, the values method allows us to fetch the values in a dictionary. So if I run this program, it is going to give me the values. Now, I can as well have for score and scores. If I'm interested in the values, instead of printing out the score, I can have something like result is equal to scores. Here I'm going to have a slicing operator and provide score. Now let me print out the result. If I run this program, it is going to give me the values. I can as well want to display a tuple containing the key value pairs. So here I can have for score in scores dot items. So here I can have print score. If I run this program, it will give me a tuple of the key value pairs. So this is how you perform loops on dictionaries. Now let's look at dictionary comprehension. So here we have dictionary comprehension. And just like the list comprehension, dictionary comprehension allows us to create a dictionary on the fly. So let's say I want to create a dictionary containing values and their squares. I can have something like squares. First, I'm going to provide a curly braces. In the case of list comprehension, you use the square bracket, but since we're dealing with dictionaries, we're going to be using curly braces. So here I can have num. I'll provide a colon, and I'll have num raised to power 2. Here I can have 4. Num in range 1 to 6. So it is very similar to list comprehension. So now let me print out the squares. If I run this program, you can see we have a dictionary containing values and their squares. So if you look at this dictionary comprehension, this first num represents the key. Then this num raised to power 2 represents the value. This colon is to indicate that this is the key and this is the value. For num in range 1 to 6 allows us to generate numbers 1 to 5. Now, we're going to be building a mini project. In this project, we're going to be using the dictionary to store countries and the capital. So first, we're going to start by creating an empty dictionary. This dictionary is going to be holding the countries and the capitals. So we can have countries is equal to, we'll have an empty curly braces. So this is an empty dictionary. Next, because we're building a mini project, we're going to be storing 5 countries and the capitals. And we're going to be using the input method to prompt the user to provide countries and the capitals. So here we're going to be using a for loop. And we can have something like for num in range 5. Next, I'm going to be prompting the user to provide countries and the capital. So here we can have country is equal to, here we're going to have input. And for the prompt, we're going to have, please enter a country. Next, we're going to be prompting for the capital of the country. So here we can have capital is equal to input. Here I'm going to have, please enter the capital. Now I'm going to be storing the country and the capital into the dictionary countries. So here we're going to have countries. Then we'll provide a slicing operator, then provide the key, which is country. So here we're going to have country. Then we're going to be assigning it to a value. And for the value, we're going to have capital. Then after prompting the user 5 times to provide countries and the capital, we're going to display an information. So here we can have print country information successfully stored. Now let me print out the countries. So here we can have print countries. Now let's run this program, and I'm going to be making use of the terminal. So here we're going to have cd document cd Python classes. Then we're going to have Python countries.py. Then hit enter. Please enter a country. We can enter Ghana. For the capital, we can have Accra. Please enter a country. Here we're going to enter South Africa. And for the capital, we're going to enter Pretoria. Please enter a country. We can enter Nigeria. For the capital, we can enter Abuja. Please enter a country. We can enter USA. For the capital, we can enter Washington, D.C. Please enter a country. We can enter France. And for the capital, we can enter Paris. So this is our countries and the capital. Now, let's say we want to be able to search for a country in our dictionary and get the capital. To do this, we can make use of a while loop. So here we're going to have while true. This loop is going to continue running until we tell it to stop. So for this, we're going to be prompting the user to provide the country. Here we're going to have search. And we're going to be prompting the user to provide a country. So here we're going to have input Please enter a country or exit to quit. Now, if the user enters exit, then the loop is going to terminate. So we're going to have if search is equal to exit. Here we're going to have break. If not, we're going to be performing a search on a dictionary to identify the country and the associated capital. Here we're going to have if search in countries. Here we're going to have print, and we can have country, and we're going to be providing the search. Then we can have capital, and here we're going to have countries. Then we're going to be providing the search as the key. In a situation whereby the country is not in our dictionary, then we can have else. We can print out country not found. Now let's try this out. So we're going to clear the terminal. Here we're going to have, please enter a country. I'll enter Nigeria. Capital is Abuja. Please enter a country. I'll enter Ghana. Capital is Accra. Please enter a country. We can enter United States of America. Capital, Washington, D.C. Please enter a country. We can enter Canada. And for the capital, we're going to enter Ottawa. Please enter a country. We can enter Spain. And for the capital, we're going to enter Madrid. Then here we're going to be searching for a country. So please enter a country or exit to quit. We can enter Spain and hit enter. So we'll have country Spain, capital Madrid. Please enter a country or exit to quit. We can enter Nigeria. Capital is Abuja. Please enter a country. We can enter Ghana. The capital is Accra. Now, if we want to quit, we're going to enter exit. So this is how we can be able to store countries and the capital using the dictionary.